Which I said, I'm stirring your stuff. I'm also have 4 layers on.
You're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, he told me here, our son told us last year, and we told the story about how James Patterson just had.
Yeah.
This is more like, he was like, he's supposed to.
It's like, what do you have to do? It's a colony what comes to get. You're on. Franchise yourself.
All right, hello, everyone. Today is February 12th, 2024. I would like to call to order a regular meeting of the Saratoga Springs Public Library Board of Trustees. Thank you for coming. Nice to see you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the January meeting minutes. We have a regular meeting and executive session minutes in there from January 8th, and we also have a special meeting set of minutes from January 22nd, 2024. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
You have a tie. Which one of you would like to?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any questions or anything about the minutes? Okay, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We now have the expenditures, the January prepaid checks, 71888 to 71890, totaling $3,120.72. And the February warrants and checks, 71891 to 71972, totaling $169,790.35. Anyone have any questions about those expenditures? And if no one has any questions, would someone like to make a motion that we approve those expenditures?
Approval?
Okay, that's Terry. Would someone like to second?
A second.
Thanks, Carol. All in favor? That passes. Sleep. We now have the next item on the agenda, the approval of financial reports, the January prepaids and February warrant sheet, the budget report, and the income report. I know we were talking about whether we were going to need to reallocate potentially in this month or next month. Are we staying where we are for now, Mike?
I think for now, we're fine. I think we will likely want to reallocate some from the, what we've allocated to capital expenses into the equipment budget to cover what we spent on the upgraded self-check machines.
Right.
We'll probably do that as we, probably next month.
Okay, that's fine.
But I think for now, we're in a good place.
And are there any questions about either of those reports from anyone?
Do you think in professional services, is that gonna go up?
I think it will likely go up since we've engaged multiple lawyers.
Yeah.
So, and I think we'll be able to reallocate some from the salaries line into the professional services line.
Okay. Feel free to let us know. All right, if there are no questions, would someone like to make a motion to approve the financial reports? Thanks, Nancy. Second?
A second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
President's report, my report. Some of what I've been working on regarding the parking lot, I'm going to save for that part of the agenda and unfinished business, I did want to share that Ike and I, as you may have seen in his report, submitted public comments to the planning board regarding the construction across the street. I did not attend the meeting live. When I spoke with them that day, they said that it had already been included in the packet, and so I could just watch the meeting from home. And they didn't actually take public comment during the meeting, so that ended up being a good move on my part. The building is now going to be 5 stories instead of 6. It will have the 32 units. They're not interested in our concerns about the parking. And they are, I don't see any reason that it's not going to happen, and it'll likely move through rather quickly because they have some time restrictions around some grant money to have it be considered affordable housing. And so those guidelines for them, that they are going to have all of those 32 units be 100% affordable, is the units are, if anybody knows square footage, just to give you a reference to what's happening in downtown Saratoga right now, the units will be between 683 square feet, very little, think very little, to 1,000 square feet, and they'll be approximately $300,000. So
That counts as affordable.
that counts as affordable.
Are there separate rooms?
They're gonna just have bunk beds everywhere. Nope, those are separate units. They're also gonna have a cafe on the first floor that's gonna have the coffee shop thing that will also have books. And they're gonna have a space in the back that people can sign out to use, like a community room. Everything that's happening downtown has to provide some kind of civic relationship, I think is what you would say, and to the community. So that's what they're doing. So it will go back and forth. A lot of that meeting was just who is going to oversee this series of hoops they need to go through, whether it was going to be design review or the planning board, and it's going to be the planning board. So that is the update on that. And everything else in my report, I'm just going to save for later on in the meeting. There is no public comment. In a correspondence and communication in our packet was a notice of probate in the estate of Nancy Taylor Cantman. And in looking at all that, I guess it's that you just then wait and see what comes of it.
Right, we don't know much about Ms. Hampton, except we found an obituary. We know that she was a graduate of Skidmore College. She was an editor, and she was a member of IEEE. She worked for Harcourt Brace Jovanovich for a while. We did find out that she did leave us, or in her will includes a bequest to the library in the amount of $5,000. We don't know much about what her relationship to the library was, except that she apparently was a lover of libraries. Included in her will was a bequest to us, the library in White Plains and New York Public Library, but it's still in probate, so it will very likely be a long time before anything comes through here.
Okay, that's lovely. Yeah, that's very nice. Ike, we are at your report.
As I mentioned, we've engaged a few different lawyers for a few different reasons recently. I did have conversations this morning. We've been following up about the situation with seeing if we can iron out the ownership of the library building and what it might mean for permitting for projects. Everybody at this point, from the state education department to the school district to Cole Adams, the attorney that we've engaged for this purpose, it seems to be convinced that we are the owners of this building, and that very likely means that we should be dealing with the building department here in the city of Saratoga Springs for our permitting. Since it will be the very first time that we've ever done that, how we go about doing that will be a learning curve. We have an appointment tomorrow morning with Megan Brennan from Butler Ways Architects to talk about other things. Among them is the status of the elevator improvement project. And so we'll talk to her to see how we might proceed with that. But as far as the ownership of the building, everybody at this point is on the same page about that the ownership of the building is ours.
And is there documentation that they're providing you with that?
There is some I mean, the property, as we know, is deeded to us. There is some communication now from the school district that mentions that the building, that we own the building. That same documentation also mentions that we proceed through the state education department for permitting. So there are still some things to be ironed out as far as how that process proceeds when it comes to dealing with the capital projects. But so we're not all the way to the unknown yet, but we're getting there.
Okay.
There's that. You saw my summary of the auditor's report, and as I mentioned, I think we probably want to wait for the whole big report, but the good news is that we have an unmodified report with, I think this is the kind of finding that we want. And then you saw the rest. So the big news about Saratoga Reads is that we are working on a similar kind of capstone project to the one that we had the first time around when we did this, with having members of the Lax family participate in a discussion as a capstone project this time. We have some new technology than we had the last time around. They'll be able to do it by Zoom. We are hoping to, once again, partner with folks at Skidmore College, particularly with the biology department and folks in the neuroscience program, to enlist them to participate in that capstone project and partner with them. Things are a lot different now at the college than they were when we did this the first time around. So putting the pieces together is a little bit of a challenge in terms of they don't have a community relations department anymore. So now we've got to go directly to departments to enlist the partnership. But Jamie's made some good inroads there with the folks in the biology department.
Right.
Are there any questions about anything else?
You want to have any questions, Brian? Don, you are next. And, yeah, go ahead. What do you want to highlight?
Nothing to really highlight, I'm just continuing on. I think I mentioned a few of these in the past meeting or two about the upgrades that we're doing to some servers, and maybe to mention the kiosk that we're probably gonna put into where right now there's a few books on display that center self-check as you walk in the door. We removed just out of not wanting to buy another self-check when we upgraded the current ones. And it turns out just from casual conversations with some of the clerks that it's not being missed. We don't have the numbers that would pick up any slack. So for that space, we're going to put in a self-service e-card, sit down and can't think of the words, the card creation. You start your application, that's an application. So
Yeah,
the library
that's a
card
great
application. They'll be able to pull up and sit there and take their time. It doesn't take that long, a few minutes to 5 minutes. So we're gonna try that out and see how that goes in that space. That should be next, a few weeks I should have that.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone have questions or comments for Don? Trevor. First, before you highlight anything, thanks for the outline of the steps when something's new, because that's really crazy for me to read of all of those things that happen.
Just took an opportunity to geek out a little bit.
I love the geeking out.
Thank you.
So, no.
Now, anything to highlight, as far as that's concerned, just, as we are launching new collections, and when you launch new collections, other ideas start to pop and say, how come we don't? Wouldn't it be nice if we had ... It's like, yeah, it's all doable. Just, it's kind of cool. Here are the steps that, really simplify the steps that we go through when we are either doing a change to a collection or when we are introducing a new collection. And I think I left out a very important part of this, which is like where this, she says she can do more. She's been taking on more. So just looking at her table there, it's pretty remarkable. And Marianne is facing one really cool thing, and then another, challenge, or it's a sign of what's happening. First of all, the Immigrant Resource Fair that's coming up in March. She and Miguelina have been working to plan that. They've been up at the church. They've done the layout for the event, where tables are going to go. I think right now they have 22 or 23 participants lined up for this event. And that's going to be on a Wednesday, so that I'm going to be able, I'm here, I'm going to be able to go check that out. And also too, I believe that she's getting the demand for English language classes is, especially in the past few weeks, has really spiked. And so she's working real hard to try to find tutors that have availability that she can pair with people, and the people that she's encountering now are really in need of immediate basic job skill related English. And so she is tackling that. So otherwise, we're doing well. Like I said, we're keeping on. So if you have any questions?
You have questions for Trevor?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Catherine? Your pictures, it's so fun to see the pictures. I just love it. I love all those happy faces doing all those things.
You have so much fun downstairs, and the fun. And Christine said she never saw so many dads at a story time ever.
As the auto
With the-
museum is
yeah,
the
the James Bond.
the James Bond part, yeah.
She's like, I never saw so many dads. We did also have the preschool fair back this month, which is one of those events that I'm so happy we are able to continue after the pandemic. We were worried we wouldn't be able to get people back. It kind of varies how many schools we get from year to year, and Waldorf has had some turnover also. So, but there was an article from the New York State Library that was comparing state report data, and they were like, there's less than 3% of programming that is for parents and resources for parents. And I was just like, well, this is the kind of stuff that people seem to want, localized information that helps them make informed decisions. So, yeah, we're having a very big time downstairs. We're very busy, but
I used to always work at preschool fair for the Waldorf school, and I loved it.
Yep.
The parents are, it's just a super interesting to be in that group with all those people coming in. And I love how much the teen stuff, how you're relying on them to volunteer in the other programs and connect them in. It's really great.
Yeah, we got, I don't remember, almost twice as many teams for this last meeting than we expected. We think a lot of them had a realization that the school year's ending and they need their service hours. So Emery immediately got to work trying to find them something to do. But they do really good work. Kate has a program coming up that she's starting called a homeschool hang. And we get a decent amount of homeschool families here, and we're trying to connect them a little bit. But she had some volunteers come in to paint like a backdrop for her, and it's like amazing. Everyone who walked in the office is like, who made that? And it was just some volunteers. They were like, oh, we like art. And it's this beautiful aquatic scene. It's crazy. The kids do such good work. We're so fortunate.
It's great. Any questions for Pat? Jamie isn't here. So anybody have anything in particular that they were wondering about in the adult services in case somebody else here can answer it for them?
I don't really wonder about anything, except I had to say, I really read the reports carefully, not that I don't every month, but I did, and you all seem like you just really love your jobs. That was the vibe I got from the reports this month. So I just wanted to put that out there, so it's great,
Nice.
makes me wanna not work here. But it's very exciting to read about what you're all doing. Even the dry stuff, it's like you're just, yeah. it's all
Yeah.
part of it.
We get this opportunity to live vicariously. It's great. Rick, is there anything in particular in yours that you want to bring our attention to?
Nothing super major, you know, we keep trying to do more sustainability stuff where we can. You know, kind of I had a little disappointment there with, we had an HVAC unit that's just, that thing has had so many little repairs that just keep adding up. It's like, did somebody just smash it all in there and, you know, try to make it work? But, you know, the value ratio isn't there anymore. And they would have to take this unit all apart, bring it down outside on the concrete, try to put a compressor in it, part of it, and then try to put all the parts back together in the room. So the labor cost I was like, no, we'll cannibalize that, what's left. We'll take some of the things we can use for our other units. We'll put a nice new one, and they'll actually put it in the right direction so somebody can work on it. Even our littlest guy can't get in there and get his head around the corners. He goes, who designed this?
It's so interesting, isn't it? Those kinds of things that you wonder, why are they making so
It's the
hard?
smallest room and it has 3 units on the floor. And everybody that comes is, what am I supposed to work on? I gotta break it apart first.
Right.
But overall, you know, we're making progress. And we'll just keep moving forward.
Good.
Any
Any
questions?
questions for Rick? No? Okay. Kelly, you are up next. I'm sorry, as I was reading your paychecks.
Yes.
I can just imagine the disappointment and the
Yeah.
frustration and,
Back
you
to
know,
square one.
back to square one. Yeah, so you said in here that you were gonna see if you had found anything. Have you found anything interesting?
I've had 2 meetings so far, and one of them I really like, it's called Perform Yard, but it's quite expensive. I think it's exactly sort of what we are looking for, but it's costly. So I have one more scheduled, next week, so we'll see. I guess the one that I didn't like is called Trackstar. That's not gonna work for us, so.
Well, maybe the one advantage of having had this not be what you wanted it to be is you really know what
Well,
you're
exactly,
looking for.
yeah, because that's what the problem with paychecks was, right? Like, I didn't know until, I took all the training, but I didn't know until I was creating these evaluations and pushing them out to people. And then if somebody missed one, then I learned that I couldn't just
Yeah,
push it back, you know, it was a whole thing. And I got to see what the managers could see and what they couldn't see, and, you know, so it's been a learning experience, yeah, for sure.
good. Anything else in your report that you wanna?
Just hiring for a few positions again, so that's about it.
You had a little, you had a little window.
Yeah, it was nice, yeah, nice little reprieve.
You'll see next in your packet, the, joint automation project pieces that I have signed. There are no special or committee reports. And so, we're gonna approve some of those in new business, but, the parking discussion, I asked to have on the agenda partly to kind of give everybody in the room a little bit of an update and then also have a group conversation a little bit about it. The special meeting that we had earlier in the month in that meeting, we made the decision to hire an attorney to help us with the parking lot, Stephanie Ferradino. And we did that because we met with the Department of Public Works and that was helpful. And there's conversations around a tourism parking program that the city is looking at potentially creating that would start this spring. And in that program, the parking garages and parking lots will be charged. And they don't have all the details worked out, but there'll be a system of some kind of decals or something for employees to park on particular streets and residents to be on particular streets. But in the restriction of document, the declaration of restriction that surrounds the parking lot, you can't charge for parking. And so that would mean that this public library parking lot would be the only parking lot in Saratoga Springs that would be free if they passed that program. And so that had us thinking more around, well, how do we kind of really approach this? So we've been all doing a lot of research. I have special thanks to Jen Ferris and Ike and Michelle and Trevor. I mean, and Jamie, like I have sent out constant, I need this data, I need that data, all of us looking in the Saratoga room, trying to piece together how things could happen, where they happen, looking at the maps, where the lot lines are. Jen and Stephanie and I had a whole period of time in the boardroom. We couldn't find the perimeters of the boundaries because the parking lot is actually partly land that was purchased from the city and land that was purchased from someone else. And so where did all those borders sit? It has been a mystery. So we're untangling those pieces and we'll be approaching the city council together to see if we can come up with a different kind of a plan. In that conversation then, is if we want to have the public at all engaged, patrons engaged, either with a petition or letters or going to city council meetings. We don't know yet what we're going to look at, what the plan is going to be. Does people have ideas around how we might do that? So, for example, since Jean couldn't be here tonight, she said it might be nice to just have a quick survey when people came in. Were you able to find parking? Did you struggle to find parking or not? We kind of know that many people do struggle. One of the other statistics that Trevor and Ike gave me that I was shocked about is right now there are about 700 people daily coming in the library. So it's a lot of people coming in and out of this building. I don't know what else in downtown Saratoga has that amount of foot traffic, really, on a daily basis. And so I just wanted your thoughts about it. I also spoke with the attorney who worked with the drafting of that agreement back in the early 90s on Friday, and he said they had done a postcard campaign when they were in the midst of the bond had passed, but the city, they still hadn't purchased the land. So I just wondered, I wanted it on our agenda to just see if people had any thoughts, and we would just kind of gather them. We're not making decisions right now.
Do we have any sense, and this would be maybe part of a survey, on how many people are walking and how many people are actually driving?
As far as I know, that was not a question. I looked at the strategic plan questions too. I don't remember that being a question. Has anyone else seen that kind of data?
I don't think we have any data that's not anecdotal, but I would say based on the age of our clientele, which during the daytime hours really skews at the top of the age range and at the bottom of the age range. And so I would say these are people who probably rely on some mode of transportation to get here. So they're, because it's very young people coming with caregivers,
Right,
who are probably being driven here, I would imagine, or they're coming in like command vehicles, like gigantic strollers, or they're very elderly people who have some kind of mobility issues who are probably being driven here.
We do get and it would be interesting too, I mean, if you do walk, do you walk because I don't want to struggle with parking? You know, I mean, when I walk down to the library, it's usually because I don't want to deal with looking for parking.
And we do know that most people enter through, I mean, I would say probably 90% of the people who come into the building enter through the
Right.
Putnam Street entrance.
okay. The other thing, I also pulled up some of the data out of the strategic plan and then out of some of the US Census stuff that this school district, since we are a school district library, is 111 square miles. So people are coming from Milton, Greenfield, Wilton, you know, so they can't, there's no way they can all walk, and it's over 50,000 people live in that that area, so, yeah.
Katie, you mentioned in your remarks something about coming up, talking with people and trying to come up with a different kind of plan. If that doesn't happen, are we just part of this city restructuring of parking?
We can't just automatically because of the way that agreement sits, so regardless, we can't be. They knew before we were even meeting with them, and I think they thought that's why we wanted to meet with them, is because they saw they're meeting with everyone who has these kind of random lots around the city.
Okay.
And so if we want to either gather information from patrons or bring it to their attention, do people have thoughts about that?
We get a lot of people that just volunteer, like they're late for story time and they'll say, oh, we couldn't find parking. So like that's information that we could just track for you. Cause we don't ask. I mean, I'm certainly not gonna be like, why are you late? But people volunteer, they're respectful. You know, so we do get quite a bit of people volunteering. Yeah.
If you were to do like, try to do a survey of library patrons, I don't know if that's feasible. How would you go about doing that? You know, how would you go about asking them or making it available to them or apprising them that this is going on? And then you have to construct a questionnaire. How did you get here? Did you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do it. We probably would want to do a micro survey, like 1 or 2 questions. We do still have, particularly during those busy times, the very early morning hours, we still do have a volunteer at a kiosk especially at the Putnam Street entrance. We could just ask people as they come in. We did that regularly when we were first reopening after the shutdown. We had somebody there, you know, keeping a tally of people as they were walking in and what kind of questions they were asking. We could turn the table a little bit and say, hey, do you mind asking how did you get here today?
Right.
I think if you outlined it, I mean, yeah, you're not only gonna ask 1 or 2 questions, but I mean, I think most people would, you know, if you outlined it as, you know, you may or may not know that the city is revamping parking and we're concerned about our lot, and we just are trying to get feedback to deal with that. I would think, you all deal with patrons more than I do, that people would be receptive to that. Like, or would they wouldn't see it as, I mean, we're not trying to figure out, do you own a car and is it fancy? I mean, it's.
I think probably every single patron that comes in here at one point or another has had trouble parking here.
Right.
So I think that they'd all be receptive to answering 1 or 2 questions about it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, like actually communicating what the purpose is.
Right.
Because at some point you might want to, you might want to be kind of motivating people to
Right.
maybe
Speak
go
up
to a
about it,
meeting
yeah.
or sign a petition.
And I think some of them probably would.
So there's an educational thing about this is a concern for the library, you know.
Well, we did have some conversations last year with marketing and Gina, about trying to gather other kinds of data, and we were brainstorming some solutions between like paper data or people asking, adding questions to the website, adding questions to the OPAC, emailing people who attend programming because they sign up, so we have their email. Like there, so I think Gina probably has a list of some of the thoughts, because you were there, right? Yeah, because we were trying to figure out like, asking someone to fill something out when they're in a rush or downstairs with children is just not much of a thing, like,
Right.
so.
We did an online survey, we could have a QR code that was posted around, and then maybe that it pops up when people check out books and, you know, in different places, and just ask people to only fill it out once, or, you know.
Yeah, that was we talked about trying to have some signage that could direct people, and like you were saying, tell them why we want to know, because
Yeah,
our whole thing was like, what is it that we're trying to find out, and why do we want to know, like, because certain things, like, it's easy for us to know this book goes out, so we know people like it, this book doesn't go out, no one wants it, like, that's easy for us, but.
yeah. And I think, and we did that with the strategic plan.
We did, and we got
And,
nice
and
response.
we're, you know, gonna begin those conversations about the next one, or you probably already have. So, well, then just give it some thought, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next month, and we'll have more of a strategy of, how we're gonna move forward.
Can I just ask what the ideal outcome would be? I mean, we're amassing data, we're making arguments to the city. So what would we be ideally arguing for? Are we asking, for instance, that the city allow us to restrict parking for library patrons?
If I can just
Yeah.
interject for a second, that may be better proper topic in the executive session. Okay,
Yeah,
and what do you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, we can talk about that in the executive session. But yes, thank you, Sarah. Okay, so if anything comes to mind, just feel free to jot it down, you know, send it off to us, or in our catch, you know, Ike or Jen about it, and, we'll gather that information. In new business, the joint automation agreement, which is something we have each year. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve that?
I'll so move.
And second?
One second.
Thank you. All in favor? The 2023 annual report. Ike mentioned in his report to us, Jen, that you may want us to be approving it with some potentials for changes, or,
So Eric worked on it a little bit, and we're very close. It would be the financials just need to balance, and that would be the only
okay.
change.
Also, it didn't put me in with my new term.
Because it's the previous year.
So it's what, 2022?
June or July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
Okay, okay. I was getting confused then. Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve does anyone have any questions for Jen while she's pulling it together?
So, or would be approving it subject,
With
subject to,
the financial pieces, with Eric being,
It just needs to get adjusted for any adjusting journal entries they had during the audit. So we're using the numbers that we have, but they just need to get updated for any adjustments they had during their audit.
oh,
There you go, that's the motion.
there's the motion. Okay. So I would like to make that motion. Would someone like to second it? Thank you, Nancy. All in favor? Okay. The budget vote calendar, you would see here, this is pretty standard. There, Don's just pulled it up. There's a lot of pages of this, Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going down and down and down here to try to check. Oh, thank you.
So what's unusual about this budget vote or this election calendar is that there are no trustee elections since nobody's term expires this year. So
Yes.
It's a very unusual year.
Very unusual.
And we're in the process of preparing, we just started preparing a budget. And so what might happen is that we may, and we're gonna start out trying to prepare a budget with no change in taxes. And if that happens, we're not actually obligated to have a budget vote. We always have done, and we probably will do again, since we have to make it. But so it could be a year when we're not obligated to have any kind of vote at all. We will, but it's just a very, could be a very unusual year.
Interesting, yeah. And so Ike and I also discussed that then we may end up having a separate meeting around the budget, which we have often done. A quick meeting at some point when they have some of those. Otherwise, it's outlined, legally, really, of what has to be,
What has to happen?
what has to happen when and how people are notified. So would someone like to approve the budget vote calendar?
So
Thank you, Heather. And second,
I'll second.
Terry, all in favor? Okay. Okay. And then we have the finalized audited financial statements. So do you want us to make a motion to approve this even though we haven't met with them yet
Sure.
or
This
discussed
actually
this?
doesn't require your approval.
Oh, it doesn't,
It's just-
okay.
It's just a final report. from the
Okay, great.
auditors, but-
So it's there, when we do schedule them to come, we can just remind people that it was in this particular
Right,
packet
yeah.
to go back.
And you'll all get a hard copy of it.
Okay, great,
But it's a lot to digest, so.
yes. All right, does anyone have anything else before we adjourn? All right, then I would like to make a motion that we adjourn into an executive session to discuss a legal matter.